Hey everybody, here today with a special video that I'm doing a new series for Reanimator that's going to replace the current bi-weekly leagues, at least while I get through this series, which is going to be in-depth matchup analysis and gameplay. So today we're going to be looking at the mirror match for Reanimator. Mirror match, 75 mirror match, 75 card mirror match. And talking a little bit about approach, keepable hands, and looking at some gameplay as well. So thanks again to all my patrons for your support. Please leave some feedback for this video. Let me know what you think about having this replace the bi-weekly video, at least in the weeks to come, while I get through some of the metagame matchups. So, and I will try to do it weekly. It's going to be relying on who I can get to be my opponent for about 5 matches or so. But if I can get somebody every week, I'll try and get a video out like this once a week, or, not quite every other week. Try and get them out as quickly as possible. So anyway, matchup today is the mirror. So in the mirror, basically, game 1 on the play, in the blind, it doesn't really matter how you approach it because you don't know what your opponent is. But let's say you know what your opponent's on. Cards that I value very, very highly are Chancellor of the Annex, because Chancellor of the Annex can turn a turn 1 combo from your opponent into a turn 3, assuming they even have the second mana source, because they need, say they have Entomb, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Reanimate. It's the 3 cards you need for the combo. Dark Ritual costs 1 extra because of Chancellor, so they need 2 mana to do that. So that I guess that specific hand would be a turn 2 as opposed to a turn 1. But if they have Entomb, Petal, Reanimate. Okay, these are all still turn 2s. But you get the point. It slows them down at least 1 turn, if not more. If they don't have the second land, they can't even combo. So if they have Dark Ritual, land, and Tomb Reanimate, they have to cast the Dark Ritual on your turn to eat the Chancellor trigger, and then they have to go to their next turn, then they have to cast Entomb on your second turn. So this is the turn 3 scenario, which is likely way too slow. So your turn 1 just turned into a way too slow. So, Chancellor slows you down a lot. So you're really looking for a Chancellor. The other cards you're looking for are cards that beat Chancellor. Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal eats the Chancellor trigger. Unmask. Unmask beats the Chancellor trigger. So those are the cards you're looking for game 1, as well as your combo, obviously. And then the other cards that are quite powerful are Faithless Looting, because it draws you 2 cards. And you need 2 cards for your combo. So there's a lot of games where you're just kind of discarding each other a lot, and so you're working with very low resources, and you're just you don't have a whole lot going on, and so looting really helps you get out of those, and in the flashback also. So looting's really powerful. So Petal, Looting, Chancellor are the most powerful cards in this matchup. And then obviously discarding stuff. And this is all assuming you don't just have the Lotus Petal into Dark Ritual, into Reanimate on the play, which some number of games are going to go like that. Cards you don't want, or things you don't want to happen, is you don't want your Gristlebrands to get reanimated by your opponent. So that means that you're often going to be pitching them to unmask, or you're going to be putting them on the bottom with the London Mulligan. So that's pretty important to think about as well. And then Ashen Rider can get you out of some sticky situations where your opponent gets a Gristlebrand, but they're not able to draw enough cards, or they're not able to get a second thing. You can Ashen Rider. It's also a really good way to break parity when you both have a Gristlebrand or both have a Chancellor of the Annex. Then Ashen Rider is really good at fixing that problem for you. All right, and another thing to think about in game 1 that's pretty important is when you cast Exhume, your opponents can respond with Entomb And so if you used all of your mana for the turn to entomb and exhume a Gristlebrand, and your opponent then entombs for a Gristlebrand themselves, you both get to draw 14 cards, but you have no mana, and you're going to end up passing the turn, and your unmasks aren't going to be that good because they don't have to draw their cards until their turn or until you Ashen Rider. So if you're doing that, you want to have mana floating, you want to have land drops, and so you can Ashen Rider their Gristlebrand and then unmask their hand. That's what you need to do if you're casting Exhume. You don't want to be at like a low life total and then cast it with no mana, no land drops, and that sort of thing. So Exhume is very risky. And then in the sideboard, we only have one card dedicated to this mirror, and that's Coffin Purge. And this is the only matchup where I bring Coffin Purge in. And the reason there is a Coffin Purge here is because you can entomb for it. So some people might play like Fairy Macabre or Surgical, which are fine in the mirror, but they take up a lot of room. While Coffin Purge only takes up one, because then you have access to five of them. The one that you could draw and the 4 that you can tutor for with entombs. So that's really good. And then we have Reverent Silence, which eats Chancellor triggers. So remember how I mentioned that Lotus Petal and Unmask were really good because they can get through these Chancellor triggers, which slow you down so much that they change the complete... You might have this game plan based on your hand, you see Chancellor, and it completely changes the makeup of your game plan because of that one trigger. So Reverent Silence, as well as Lotus Petal and Unmask, can help keep your hand intact, your plan intact, with just one card. And it also happens to hit Animate Dead. So it's not a dead card in the matchup, especially if they end up Animate Deading Chancellor of the Annex or Iona. So Iona is another card in the sideboard that we bring in. We put this on black. If they're playing this list, they can't actually beat it. Right? So don't put Animate Dead on it. Don't entomb for Iona to put an Animate Dead on it. Don't make that be your game plan because of Reverent Silence. However, Reanimate on Iona for black should be game over against most builds of Reanimator. And then, so Coffin Purge, Iona, and Reverent Silence, and that's it. And then this Lake of the Dead, sometimes I'll bring it in on the draw because it can help with the Chancellor trigger. Not the Chancellor trigger, but an in-play Chancellor. Can make a lot of mana. So in the gameplay, you'll see me bring it in sometimes, but not always. Kind of just depends on how I feel. And definitely only bring it in on the draw. Okay. Let's take a look at some opening hands. So we're going to assume that we know what our opponent is playing when I evaluate these hands, just because that's kind of the point of the video, is the mirror match and the unknown information that's not important for this video. All right, so we're on the play here, and we're just looking at game ones right now. We're on the play. So obviously this hand's pretty good. You have a turn 1. It's 2 exhumes though, so if they have a Chancellor trigger, our hand gets kind of awkward because we're going to be exhuming, and we also have a Gristlebrand in our hand which they can reanimate. And so if they have a Chancellor trigger, what the play would be to cast Dark Ritual on their turn to eat that Chancellor trigger, and then we go to our turn and we combo. However, if they have a Chancellor trigger, all they really need is like an Unmask because we don't have a Chancellor trigger. So that they either just need a turn 1 or an Unmask and a Reanimate, and we lose. So this hand, I'm going to keep it. I would keep it just because if they don't have a Chancellor trigger, we win. We're on the play. If we're on the play. If we're on the draw, you have to mulligan this one. But yeah, on the play, I would keep it and just hope they don't have a Chancellor. And if they have a Chancellor, there's a good chance I lose. But the line with Dark Ritual on their turn is what we would go to. All right, so we're going to mulligan. And I'm just going to hit the mulligan button because it gives me another 7 just to reevaluate some more opening hands. All right, so this is our 7. We're on the play. This hand's really good because we have a Chancellor trigger, we have an Unmask, and we have mana and eluding. So I would keep it. I mean, it's not really, really good because we are missing part of our combo. But again, assuming your opponent is on the same same plan and same list as you, this hand is pretty good for the reasons that I mentioned. So you keep it. Oops. And if it was a 6, I would just put one of the chancers on the bottom. Let's see what would happen here. You can well, it shows you your first draw because we're doing this in the play against yourself room. So, all right. So we have a chancer trigger. We have an unmask. Assuming this is turn 1 or whatever. I was just assuming it's a 7 as well. So we would just do that, and then we'd unmask them, pitching Gristlebrand. Actually, sorry. Go back to the looting, and maybe we put both Gristlebrands in the graveyard in case they reanimate one. Because if they go like land, pedal, eat the Chancer trigger, cast Reanimate, draw 7, they might miss on their 7, and then we want our Gristlebrand in the graveyard. So I put the Gristlebrand in the graveyard, and I'd unmask them pitching Exhume. Okay. I win. All right, we're gonna do a couple more opening hands, and then we'll move on to actual gameplay where you can see sideboard games as well. All right, opening hand. Pretty good. We have mana. We have an unmask. We have more mana. We have a Chancer trigger. So on the draw, this is a snap keep. You got the Chancer trigger, you got an unmask, that's exactly what you want. Assuming the game goes a little long and they unmask you on turn 2 or whatever, you would just entomb for looting, because they're going to discard you. You're just like probably playing out a land and unmasking them. Play on turn 1, depending on if they have a Chancer trigger or not. Yeah, probably just do that, and then you can entomb if they discard on you. You can entomb for looting, because you have 3 lands here, so you can loot later. And then they end up discarding your Chancellor, and you know the contents of their hand by then. You've probably taken a Reanimate spell out of their hand, and so then you're just playing off the top. That's kind of what the mirror match is all about. All right, let's look at another 7. This one would just be a mulligan. I mean, again, we're assuming we know our opponent's on Reanimator here, and our plan here is to loot, which puts Gristlebrand in the graveyard, and then pass the turn. It seems really bad, because then they can just reanimate your Gristlebrand. You don't really have any free discard. You don't have any way to eat a Chancer trigger, so you just mulligan this hand. All right. Again, these are all 7s. We're just looking at 7s here. So on the play, I mean, you play out a land, you could Thoughtseize them, and then you could see if you need to unmask pitching Gristlebrand or unmask pitching Therapy. So I guess you would keep this. You play Badlands, Thoughtseize. Yeah, and then if they only have like the 1 card in their hands, yeah, if they only have one action spell or whatever, I mean, they probably have discard plus something, which could be awkward, but if you could like maybe hopefully spike a discard spell and slow them down, then you can loot the following turn, put Gristlebrand in your graveyard, and then Therapy the Reanimate spell from there. So I would keep it, but it's a little awkward, because you might end up like with just nothing in your hand on turn 2. Like if you go Badlands, Thoughtseize, and you have to discard 2 spells, then you end up unmask pitching Gristlebrand, and then they discard you, they take your looting, and then you just have a Therapy, and then they have nothing, you have nothing. I mean, that's the way the mirror goes a lot, but so it could be awkward, and that could be what happens. All right, this 7's great. Even as a 6, this is great. So this one, you reveal the Chancer trigger, and you loot, because if you hit a Reanimate spell, you win. So, and if they reveal a Chancer trigger, then what you can do is you can play out your Badlands, and then you can play out your Lotus Petal, and then in response to their trigger, Chancellor Trigger, you can Dark Ritual, and then you can loot with 2 mana floating, so you pay for the Chancellor Trigger with your Dark Ritual, and then you have 2 mana floating here, and then this resolves, and then you loot, and you put these in the graveyard, and so you have 2 looks at a Reanimate spell. And if you miss, hopefully you hit discard, or at least mana, so that you can play off the top, but I mean, hopefully, you're just hoping to hit there. Alright, it's going to make me put a bunch of cards on the bottom, but we'll see what we would have drawn. I'm just assuming that was a 7, but we'll see. Would we hit? Would we hit? 1? We only get to see 2, this is the way this thing works. No, we would have hit discard. So we put Gristlebrand and Chancellor in the graveyard, and we unmask. This would be gone too from the play. But you can unmask pitching therapy or pitching Entomb, and then you can therapy them, and then eventually you'll draw your Reanimate spell before they do. Let's see, how long till we draw it? 1, 2. Okay, we would have got there. See? All right. All right, so that's enough evaluating opening hands without actually looking at gameplay. Now we're going to go ahead and actually look at the gameplay. So today I had the pleasure of having Tom Hepp, Duplicator, the trophy leader, face me in some mirror matches for the video. So I'm going to open up my recording real quick. And we're going to go through it. All right, so game 1 here. I'm assuming I don't know what my opponent's on. Let's see if I can speed it up. I'll use this button to kind of power through these matchups. So very first game, I'm assuming I don't know what my opponent's on. And then the rest of the games I'm playing as though I assume I were, just for the sake of the video, like I said. But here, yeah, oops. All right, so I ended up mulliganing. Oops, we should go back and look at those opening hands. All right, so. Sorry. All right, yeah, opening hand. We just have 1 land here. This kind of hand, if we had a creature in it, if we had a creature in that opening hand, I would keep it because I'm in the blind here. I'm on the play. I can loot, put the creature in my graveyard, and hit a land. So I would just be looking for a land. Alternatively, if we had the creature, we could just unmask ourselves and reanimate it, but then we can't unmask our opponent. So it kind of depends on if you want to play risky and just go for it turn 1 with no Chancellor Trigger against like a blue deck, or if you want to unmask them first, pitching a Reanimate, and then loot and hit a land, and then you get to. So I usually go for the play that I assume my opponent is on blue, and I also kind of assume they know I'm on Reanimator because they usually do, so I would make the play with unmask. But anyway, it's a mulligan because there's no creature. So this is what I end up on for a 5. I unmask there. He's revealed that he's on Reanimator, so I'm just eating double Chancellor Trigger, which is pretty annoying, and trying to set up a turn 2 here by entombing on his end step and then reanimating on my turn. But if he's got discard, that plan will go quickly out the window. I'm sure there's a way to kind of fast forward a little bit. And there's the discard. So I think about entombing here, but since I don't have a land, I only have 3 outs if I entomb, because I have to hit a reanimate before, and we don't know his hand, so it's a good chance we would get our Gristlebrand reanimated there. So I don't do it. He takes reanimate, which is fair. So here I'm not going to play out a land, because if he discards me, I'm going to respond by entombing. Now that I have a second source, it gives me way more outs. So my outs increased by 8 for this upcoming turn. and he needs a reanimate, but we know 2 of his cards here. So I'll go ahead. Oh, I just guess I decided to go for the looting. Yeah, entombing for looting is fine too. It makes it so that they can't reanimate your creature that you put there, and it gives you some play. And since you're going to lose the entomb anyway, you might as well put the looting in your graveyard. But arguably, you could have gone for the Gristlebrand and just hoped he didn't have a reanimate, and hope you draw a 2-mana reanimate spell before they do, but it seems a little bit on the risky side, considering he's got the mana, and we don't know his hand. Alright. Would have been good to have against Exhume. But he still has 8 cards that would have punished that. Entombing for Gristlebrand. Alright, so this first one, the way I set it up, we didn't get a sideboard game. So I switched it over so we could play some sideboard games. So that was not a full match, but we're about to start a full match here. Alright, I'm on the play. Hand's pretty good. We've got discard, we've got something for a Chancellor Trigger, we've got a Chancellor Trigger, we have 2 Entombs, but we also have this Gristlebrand in our hand, which is kind of scary. Pretty sure I keep this. This might have been a mulligan, though. Might have been better to mulligan this one. Because, okay, even if he doesn't have a chance to trigger, if we thought sees him, and then he... if we thought sees him, we're probably taking a reanimate spell, so that his discard isn't very good. Yeah, I guess that's okay. And then we have 2 Entomb, so if he unmasks us or whatever, he doesn't really have a good target. We play out the Lotus Petal. He might take a Gristlebrand or whatever and hope he outdraws me. But I think I would just take an Entomb if I were him. So anyway, I think we keep it. Again, you're not always just looking for the turn 1 in the mirror match because, especially if they approach it like I do, because you have to assume they have a Chancellor too. So your turn 1s are often not going to be that good because they're just going to, after you've mulliganed, because you're just going to get neutered by Chancellor plus discard. You need turn 1 with a Lotus Petal or an Unmask. Alright. So we both revealed a Chancellor Trigger. Let's see how this game plays out. With the Chancellor Trigger, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate to lose your Lotus Petal here because then you don't have the second land. But I think it's worth it to fire off a Thoughtseize in the face of a 4-card hand from my opponent. And he's got Therapy Reanimate. So here you just take the Reanimate. Actually, I almost said here you take the Reanimate. But we have 2 Entombs in our hand. He's going to certainly name Entomb with Cabal Therapy. Alternatively, yeah, whoops. Wow, this video is interesting. So I actually think you take the Cabal Therapy and hope that he doesn't draw either Entomb or Faithless Looting before you draw your Reanimate spell. Alright, I did end up taking the Reanimate. Either one is arguably fine. Oh, I almost forgot about my Chancellor Trigger. Yes, so that's the reason I took Reanimate there, is because he can't Therapy me on this turn because of my Chancellor Trigger. So my Entombs are safe, at least one of them. Alright, so that's a very good draw. I'm a little surprised he's not firing off that Cabal Therapy to not only gain information, but also to eat the Chancellor Trigger. That was a good draw. So I Entombed for looting there because if I draw a Reanimate spell, I still have another Entomb in my hand. And if I draw a Dark Ritual, I can Dark Ritual loot. And if I don't draw anything, then I don't really get punished for doing that. Yeah, and then if he unmasks me or whatever, I can just let him discard my Entomb, or I can Entomb for another looting, that kind of thing. So I drew the Dark Ritual, so I'm going to Dark Ritual loot. I also have a land drop here, that's important to note, because that means if I draw Animate Dead, I still have a land drop, and I have 1 mana floating after this. So if I draw Animate Dead and land, or Exhume and land, then I'm in good shape. Or, yeah. If I didn't have a land drop, then I'm really only looking for Reanimate, which is a little worse, so I might have waited a turn. So that would have a land drop. Alright, so in this situation, I missed, and I basically have to put creatures in the graveyard, which sucks. Could keep all the creatures in my hand, but I think I'd just go for the riskier line, and instead of just having a horrible hand that if they discard you, that creature goes in the graveyard anyway. And I Entomb for looting, so I can just like F6. I mean, you could wait, but I want to be able to loot again next turn. Alright, so it looks like I draw my Reanimate spell before he does. Alright, so in the sideboard game, I am on the draw, because I drew the Exhume before he drew his Reanimate spell. Also, putting game 1, putting Gristlebrand in your graveyard when you have mana, and you know most of the contents of your opponent's hand, and that kind of thing, it's not as bad, because it makes you actually have better top decks than your opponent because of Exhume when the Gristlebrand's in your graveyard. So let's say nobody's drawn any Reanimate spells, and you know like 2 of the 3 cards in your opponent's hand, and you loot like I did there, then you have 12 things you can draw off the top while your opponent only has 8. So that's great. Alright, so I'm bringing in Reverend Silence for sure, Iona for sure, Coffin Purge for sure. Those always come in. Play and draw. Lake of the Dead, pretty good against Chancellor, so I'm kind of putting it over here as a maybe. Grave Titan's good with Lake of the Dead, but it's not that good in this matchup. So I'm just kind of, when I sideboard, I kind of just like put some maybes in and start siding stuff out. You'll see here what happens. So I cut 3 Grave or Gristlebrands because you don't want them in your hand, especially on the draw. Like, they're just a liability. Elish Norn's no good in this matchup. Exhume tends to be a bit of a liability, but you want to keep some because you want to have a density of reanimation spells. Alright, so 1 to 2 Exhumes in. This one's in the super maybe pile. These ones definitely go out. Alright, and then this one will come out as well, the Elish Norn over here. Yep. And then we have 2 more, so I just, it's between, Grave Titan's gonna just not come in, I'm pretty sure. I waver between like 2 Exhumes, 1 therapy, and 1 Exhume, 2 therapies. So this time I decided to have 2 Exhumes and a therapy on the draw. But these are the questionable things I'm not 100% sure on, to switch it up every once in a while. And same with this one. Alright. So my opener is Chancellor. It's one of the first things I'm looking for. Unmask, that's one of the second things I'm looking for. Mana and looting, these are all very good. I have 1 very high liability card in my hand of Iona, but I'm pretty sure I keep this hand. Yeah, I kept it. He's got a Chancellor trigger he's got to deal with. My hand's pretty decent. I just need to draw a black card and reanimate spells. Okay, he's got the thing to eat my Chancellor trigger, which puts him down to 5 cards. He pays, which is pretty good because that means he probably doesn't have a play. Alright, so we drew our black card, so I'm almost certainly going to unmask here. And he's got a Chancellor trigger too, that's worth noting. So here I get a Bayou. Why do I get a Bayou? he's got a Chancellor trigger, so I'm going to be unmasking him, pitching the black card, paying with a land, so I have to fetch a land. And the reason I fetch a Bayou is not only because I have 2 more lands, but because I want to represent Reverend Silence, in case he has a Therapy and an Animate dead, he is more likely to not go after my Chancellor because I'm representing Reverend Silence. Because if he therapies me naming Chancellor of the Annex and then Animate deads it, then it's only a 4-power thing and also just is going to die to my Reverend Silence whenever I want it to. So there's a good chance he just wouldn't go for that play. All right, let's see. So he's probably tanking because he has an Entomb and he wants to think about should he respond. I mean, I think if he has an Entomb, he should certainly respond by just putting Coffin Purge because we're in the sideboard game here. You just put Coffin Purge in your graveyard if all you have is an Entomb or it's the best card in your hand here. And you don't worry about the fact that you don't have any lands after that. At least that's how I would do it. Let's see. All right, there we go. So his hand is... Oh, that's right. I forgot about this. He messaged me. So we're talking, when we're playing. He's obviously, he's the master of depths and doesn't have a lot of experience with this deck, but we've been talking about it a little bit recently, and he agreed to do this video with me, but he messaged me about how he realized he had made a mistake, and that's why he tanked so long there, because he had realized on his turn, or when he passed the turn, that he had made a mistake, and he just wanted to message me about that because he knew we were recording. So the mistake he made here was that when he played this Lotus Petal, he could have responded with Dark Ritual, because then he would have the turn 1 Chancellor. So you play out your land, you play out your Lotus Petal, there's a Chancellor trigger on the stack, you respond by casting Dark Ritual, and then you pay for the Chancellor, so this resolves, and then you loot with this, and that puts Chancellor in your graveyard, and if you're lucky, you might get a Gristlebrand too, and then you reanimate it. And then I'm stuck behind the first Chancellor trigger and Chancellor in play, which is going to be really rough for me. So that's why he was pausing there so we could discuss that. He knew he had missed that. So I take the reanimate. All right, but looting's scary because draws you 2 cards. It can be a little bit scary to cast as well, especially if you don't already have the land in your hand. And because putting creatures in your graveyard, especially in the sideboarded games, is kind of a little bit scary if you don't reanimate them that turn. Okay, so he looted, he found Gristlebrand, and he found a reanimate spell, and he found a petal, so I concede. Alright, so on the play, I bring in a second Gristlebrand, make sure I always have at least 2 Exhumes and 2 Gristlebrands, because that you don't want to get it unmasked and then reanimated, but on the play you kind of want one in your hand because it improves your chances of turn 1 from your hand rather than from Entomb. But I still don't want too many because they're liability, and you have like 3 liability creatures here, and that's plenty. More than enough. Alright, so I'm on the play. Alright, opening hand here. So Coffin Purge in your opener is really good. This hand's really good. Especially if they have a Chancellor. So sometimes your hand just like wants your opponent to have a Chancellor. And that's what this hand is. So this hand is your opponent reveals a Chancellor, you play a land and a Lotus Petal, and you don't pay, and then you unmask them, or you can unmask them, sorry, yeah, this is better. You play your land, you unmask them, you pay, you take their Chancellor and then you Lotus Petal Reanimate. Great. And then you've got Coffin Purge. So by the time they're even able to do their first thing through your Chancellor that you have in play, because they're going to reveal a Chancellor, you have it covered with Coffin Purge. So you basically can't lose this game if your opponent has a creature. And if they don't, you have Faithless Looting and they don't have Chancellor, so you can loot into your creature or Entomb or whatever. But it is a hand that you're hoping they have a Chancellor. Alright. And unfortunately, he didn't have a Chancellor. He only has 4 cards, which kind of sucks because it's unlikely he's got a creature because he knows he's playing the Mirror, so he's not going to keep a creature in his hand. Alright, so my hand turns out to be pretty good, so I'm going to put Reverent Silence and Coffin Purge in the graveyard. Coffin Purge protects my graveyard. I can unmask him, leaving me with the turn 2 combo, hoping he doesn't draw a discard after I take away his best spell. And it looks like pretty much that's what happened. Oh, okay, so no discard, and so we just get... Alright, so this is important. He cannot Entomb plus Coffin Purge off 1 land, so that means it's safe. We're going to get whatever we want here, unless he drew Coffin Purge, and then that would be bad for us. But if he drew Coffin Purge, that would be bad. But if he drew Entomb, then he doesn't have enough mana. So Entomb, Reanimate, Iona. Again, I wouldn't get Iona first if it was Animate Dead that I was using, but Reanimate on Iona, choosing black is pretty much unbeatable. I don't think they can beat it with most builds. So you just do that, and then you win. Alright, so we're going to play another match. Looks like I'm on the play. This hand has no mana. Has everything else we want, but no mana, so we have to mulligan. This hand's excellent. Has a Chancellor and a turn 1. And if they have a Chancellor, we can eat it with the Dark Ritual at the end of their turn. So we just have to hope they can't beat our... They can't... We have to hope a few things. First of all, no Chancellor, then we just win. If they have a Chancellor, we're hoping that they don't have an Unmask or a turn 1 with like Lotus Petal or whatever. But if they have a hand that's interrupted by a Chancellor like ours is, then we're fine. Because we just cast Dark Ritual. Alright, and then... Yeah, that gets rid of the Chancellor trigger, and then we can go for everything on our turn. Alright, so this is interesting. Here. I drew Animate Dead. But I know they don't have any free instants in their deck. Because we're playing the same 75. They don't have any free instant spells. So this Exhume is good to go because of my Chancellor trigger. Which means, again, I wouldn't Animate Dead. I wouldn't put Animate Dead on Iona because of Reverent Silence. But since I know they can't actually interact with us here, they have no way to interact. Yeah, no way to interact. Means I can just go Dark Ritual, Entomb, Exhume on Iona, and then that does the trick. But that's not what I did. Oh, it's game 1. That's right. It's game 1. Okay. Well, same thing stands. Exhume's good to go. So, if they could respond with Entomb, I would have cast Animate Dead, but they can't because of Chancellor, so I can use my Exhume. And the reason to do that, not only because it makes your Gristlebrand a 7/7, while theirs might be a 6/7, although we probably won't get to that point of the game. It also makes this Animate Dead a good card for the rest of the game, while Exhume is going to be much worse when they can Entomb in response later. Alright, so game 2, I'm going to be on the draw. Alright, so again, this hand has almost everything we want. It's got a looting, it's got mana, and it's got a Chancellor when we're on the draw. That's pretty much, I'm really looking for a Chancellor, and the hand around it is pretty good, so I'm almost certainly going to keep this hand. Alright, so we both kept, we both revealed a Chancellor. He's leading on a Bayou as well, probably for the same reason that I did. And he's unmasking me. Almost certainly taking the Faithless Looting, because I have 2 Reanimate spells and my hand is pretty much non-functioning without the Faithless Looting. So he'll almost certainly take it. And that's what he takes. Drawing a Lotus Petal is actually pretty good because it gets rid of this Chancellor trigger. It might have been my best draw, to be honest. At least for that turn. That or Unmask, I guess. Okay, no second land, then I'm... Okay. So this is game 2. This is game 2. He was on the play. I drew Entomb. He only has 1 mana, but he can Dark Ritual, Entomb, Coffin Purge, or he can just cast Coffin Purge. If he casts Coffin Purge and then he follows up, I'm going to lose the game. He didn't do anything on his turn. So I'm actually just going to pass here, believe it or not. Because Entomb, I want him to go for it first. To tap out, and then I can Coffin Purge him, and then I can loot. And then that leaves him with like no cards left in his hand, right? Because he spent all of his cards trying to combo, and then I just use this card to stop his combo. And I've got Faithless Looting in my hand, in my graveyard, and I've got all the mana I need to combo. So I didn't go for it there. For that reason. He doesn't do anything. Alright, we drew another Entomb. This is like really good. This is really good because now I don't even need to loot for me to keep doing what I'm doing. So if he's got Coffin Purge in his hand, we can like force him to use it later, and then we can Entomb for our Coffin Purge to get rid of it, which could be good. But a real plan here is to wait for him to do something. Hopefully not like Cabal Therapy. But if he does Cabal Therapy, he's only going to get 1 of these 2 cards with it. So that's fine. Because we just go Entomb for Coffin Purge. Yeah, Entomb for Coffin Purge. Let him resolve this. Therapy. And then we have the combo, and he's down a land or whatever. But we're kind of waiting for either discard or we're waiting for him to blink. For him to combo. If he goes for the combo, we just Coffin Purge him. And then we kill him because he tapped out. That's the plan. I'm thinking about how I know one of the 4... He's got 4 unknowns in his hand. I'm thinking about if there's a way here for me to go like Entomb, Reanimate, and Coffin Purge, but without getting blown out by Coffin Purge. So I don't want to get blown out by Coffin Purge and just end up having nothing left. If I go Entomb, Reanimate, he Coffin Purges. Assuming, I'm thinking he has it in his hand because he kept like, I think it was 6 or 7 cards, and he went Unmask me turn 1, and then he pass. So I'm kind of thinking he has it in his hand. And I don't think I can really be punished too hard for waiting. He'd need like double discard, but he would be casting his discard, so he'd only be drawing 1 discard off the top. He wouldn't double discard me. Alright, so here we're going to get paid off pretty good because he's going for it himself. He drew a Gristlebrand and an Iona, it looks like. So at least now we know the coast will be clear. Yeah. So here we just win because we Entomb, Coffin Purges Iona, Entomb for our own Iona, Reanimate the Iona, and we win. Just kind of shortcutting because I know his hand. The lands I get at this point don't matter because I know his 75 isn't going to be able to beat a Reanimated Iona. Alright, so we go to the next match, I think. Yep. Alright, game one. Game one, we have a bunch of discard. We're on the draw. We have a bunch of discard and an Entomb. That's great. We don't have a Chancer. That's bad. We have a Petal for his Chancer. That's great. Hand's a little bit risky, but I bet I keep this one. Just because it has so much discard and it has a way to get through a Chancer trigger and it has half the combo. Nope, I mulliganed. Okay. Looking for a Chancer. We're on the draw. I'm playing as though I know my opponent's deck. Okay, this hand's, I guess, a little bit better because we can put Gristlebrand on the bottom. And then we have a way to get through a Chancer trigger. We have discard. We've got mana. We've got looting. We've got Entomb. We have a lot of things. I think the opener I mold because I have a Gristlebrand with no Chancer trigger on the draw, so his Unmask is just very likely to win the game, which is not a position I really want to be in. This is a good example of why Chancer's so good, because this turn one would have been disrupted pretty heavily. I decided to not scoop here because I can draw a Reanimate spell and win. If he doesn't have an Unmask. He doesn't have a Chancer trigger. I've got all the mana I need for any Reanimate spell, so I could just get Ashen Rider. Or I could get if it's a 2-mana Reanimate spell, I could get Gristlebrand and draw a bunch of cards and try and get an Ashen Rider that way. Alright, I didn't draw the Reanimate spell, but I do have a looting to try and hit one. There it is, but I don't have enough mana to go for it here, so I'm going to lose because Gristlebrand's going to draw my opponent 7 cards. Alright, so, yep, he rips my hand apart and he wins. Alright, now I'm on the play. This is game 2. Here we have a Coffin Purge in our hand, which is excellent. Having Coffin Purge in your hand is great. We also have a Reanimate spell. We have mana. We have looting, but we don't have any mana to cast looting. And this hand's pretty bad against Chancellor. So, and we have Iona in our hand. It's a big liability. So I think there's a chance that I mulligan this one. Nope. I keep it. Maybe I'm already on 6, so I got to put Iona on the bottom. That makes sense. All right, yeah. So this hand's great because we have Coffin Purge in our hand. We've got mana. We've got one of the Reanimate spells. It's pretty hard to beat Coffin Purge in your opponent's hand because discarding it doesn't really stop it, and then discarding something else leaves it in the hand. So it's really hard to beat. But that being said, my hand is not great. But I think it's better than a 5 since we have that Coffin Purge in our hand. Alright, so here we're getting Thought Seized. Again, this is, like I said, it puts him in a weird spot where he's either going to have to beat 2 Coffin Purge spells, or he has to take Coffin Purge, leaving me with pretty good top decks. Unless he's got his own Coffin Purge. So he takes the Coffin Purge. I drew a looting, which is pretty nice, but I missed on my looting. And then we missed again. Okay. We drew Entomb, but at this point, now he's got 5 cards. They're all unknown. He hasn't done anything. He must have either Coffin Purge or Entomb. So I'm doing what I did that other game where I'm kind of like, alright, you have to have it. I have Coffin Purge in my graveyard. If I go for it and they Coffin Purge me, he's going to untap, he's going to kill me. Probably. So I want to leave my mana up for my Coffin Purge, not just jam. And hope he doesn't have an Entomb or Coffin Purge. And the other thing I'm thinking about is if I'm able to like discard him and then he Entombs at that point, then I can Coffin Purge his Coffin Purge. But at least here, I decided to go for it at the end of his turn so I can Animate Dead. But I can leave my mana up when he Coffin Purges me, so I won't just lose to Coffin Purge plus combo, which he probably has, or likely has, and just hasn't gone for yet because I have Coffin Purge in my graveyard. Yeah, it was a good idea for me to go for it too, because if he has double Entomb, he can just Entomb for Coffin Purge, Coffin Purge my Coffin Purge, and then combo on his turn. So at least here I made him use his Coffin Purge, and I still have mine in my graveyard. Alright, what do we draw here? Pretty sure I draw a creature. Okay, I draw a creature, and I loot. Alright, that's kind of a scary one, because I didn't hit a Reanimate spell. So I have a couple options. I can put my creatures in my graveyard. I have a Coffin Purge for his Animate Dead or Reanimate, but I'm almost certainly going to have to do it. He probably has the combo. So he's going to just like be able to use one of his Reanimate spells on my creature, make me use it, and then he can combo. So it seems pretty bad to me. So I think I just put the 2 non-creatures in my graveyard, which really sucks. Or maybe I put Chancellor, because it's less attractive to my opponent. I'm deciding between Petal and Chancellor. I don't want to use the Coffin Purge on a Chancellor, and I'm too much. If they have a Chancellor in play, then it's going to be hard for me to get this Iona into the graveyard and protect myself with Coffin Purge and find the Reanimate spell. Oops. So I just go for the 2 non-creatures, and then I draw Exhume. So now I've drawn the Exhume, so I kind of want to loot into a land so I can protect the creature they target with Coffin Purge, and then I can Exhume back the other one, or I can Animate Dead the other one, but I missed on my land, so now I don't want to put Iona in the graveyard because it's just going to lose that card, so I put those 2 back. Exhume, it's bad against Reanimate, or Entomb. Here, at least I have like Cabal Therapy, Iona, Animate Dead if they reanimate my Chancellor, but the mana taxing's going to be kind of rough, so I'm kind of in a bad spot here. He does end up getting my Chancellor, and then he gets a Gristlebrand. Oh, he hardcast. I was like, how did he get Gristlebrand through my Coffin Purge? That's right. He Dark Ritual 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He hardcast Gristlebrand, and that's the game. Alright, play another match here. We play a couple more. Alright, game 1. This hand's great. I have a turn 1 Gristlebrand. Assuming there's no Chancellor trigger, I'm on the draw. I have a Chancellor trigger and a turn 1. So this is fine. This is great on the draw. It's unlikely that he's going to be able to steal my Gristlebrand and reanimate it through a Chancellor trigger on turn 1. But he did keep 7, it looks like, so it's possible. But this hand's great, regardless. I mean, you can't mulligan the hand with all the stuff you want just because they can beat it. It's the only way that... Yeah, no. Alright, so he's going Lotus Petal to the Chancellor trigger, playing another Lotus Petal, and luckily he just passes the turn, which is really good for me, but he does have a Chancellor trigger. We can see it here, which means that I don't have a turn 1 Gristlebrand, because my turn 1 Gristlebrand would be like my 2 mana sources discarding Dark Ritual to Animate Dead my Gristlebrand, but I can't do that because I don't have enough black cards to do that. So I know he has a Chancellor, and he doesn't have a land. So Chancellor's going to be pretty strong anyway. So here I'm just going to play out... I should probably just crack this, unmask him. Oh no. Yeah, see, this is why it took me a second. Yeah, no, I should crack this, unmask him, pitching Gristlebrand, because I don't really want it in my hand if I'm not reanimating it. Dark Ritual in response to the Chancellor triggered it, pay for it, and then Animate Dead his Chancellor, because I know he has the Chancellor because he revealed it, and I have to pay for it. So I think that's the play here. I think I'm thinking about whether or not I want to show him a Lotus Petal or if it even matters. I don't really think I need to. Just do this, yeah, then just Dark Ritual. And he's got a Gristlebrand for me. So I was going for the Chancer because I know he has it. If I didn't know he had it, then I would maybe go for mine. Maybe. But anyway, he's got the Gristlebrand. This was game 1. I get his Gristlebrand. And I win. His hand was good too. He had the turn 1. But he had to hope I didn't have a Chancellor. And unfortunately, I did. Alright, so sideboarding. We've already really talked about it. I think bring in that Lake of the Dead, Coffin Purge, all that goodness. All right, here we go. Here we go. We have something to eat Chancellor triggers. We've got mana. We've got a Chancellor of our own. We've got lots of discard. This hand is very good. We also have Entomb, which can get Coffin Purge if we don't have to discard him too many times. If we don't get discarded ourselves. Can't imagine that I shipped this one. Nope. No Chancellor trigger from my opponent. We have our Chancellor trigger. Let's see what he can do. He's thinking about what he can do. Alright, so he uses the Lotus Petal to eat my Chance trigger, and then he Thoughts uses me. Seems like a pretty good play. You really don't want your opponent to untap with their 7. What will he take? I guess he just takes Entomb? I would imagine he takes Entomb, yeah. Ooh, and he unmasks us. So now I think, okay, Okay, I think if I were him, I would have taken the Unmask. The Therapy. Because the Unmask doesn't do anything without a black card. And he only has 2 cards in his hand anyway. So the Unmask doesn't seem that good. While Therapy can discard my Chancellor if I draw a Reanimate, which is exactly what happened. And Unmask is just a dead card in my hand without a black card. And it's a 2-for-1 if I ever end up using it. So I do that. This time I get the Bayou because I have Reverend Silence in my hand. So if he gets... basically, it's not great, but he can't animate Dead Iona unless he names green, and that's fine. If he gets a Chancellor, I can just kill it. So Reverend Silence is okay here. So I just want to get the Bayou rather than have a red source for future lootings. Like his Reanimator turned off fairly quickly by Chancellor. Yeah, 2 turns he can't cast Reanimate, and that's the cheapest spell, so it's pretty easy to win from here. Alright. Forgot about that, that's fine. Alright. Talking to Discord a little bit there about the video. Alright, let's get to the game. Here we go. So, my opener, this is game 1. My opener has a Chancellor. We have a liability creature, but we also just have mana. Looting, Chancellor trigger. Chancellor trigger, again, so good that you keep most hands with the Chancellor. And then we drew the combo piece afterwards, but let's see if I even... Yeah, so since I drew that and he didn't do anything except for eat a Chancellor trigger, Well, so here's the deal. not really much we can do by looting to beat. We'd be looking for like black card unmask, or just unmask, and we could exile Gristlebrand. So we'd be looting for unmask, but then we can't turn 2. Leaving up Entomb's good against Exhume. So I'm pretty sure I just play out a land here and pass, and I think I probably play out Marsh Flats because of if he like combos on me, and instead of like discarding me with his Gristlebrand, he goes for a second combo. I kind of want to protect my land from an Ashen Rider so I can also turn 2, but I guess Chancellor would beat me, so I mean it's kind of a lot to think about. That's not really worth it because you just lose with Gristlebrand. But I mean basically we're just hoping he either passes the turn or exhumes. And it looks like he's going to pass the turn, which means that we will win this game. Because it's game 1 and Gristlebrand wins game 1 in the mirror. It also wins game 2. It also wins game 3. Gristlebrand wins all the games. Play, draw, whatever it is, you get that into play, then it wins. So it's pretty good. Uh-oh, maybe he... Oh, he's thought seizing me. Okay, well that's scary. Not much I can do here. If I entomb, I could entomb for... Oh, he's also got a Chancellor trigger that I forgot about. Yeah, probably just losing this game. You can see it over here. I think I didn't... Yeah, I remember how I remember that I lost this game and I forgot about the Chancellor trigger. But it really didn't matter because I wasn't going to win no matter what. However, if I had noticed the Chancellor trigger, it was still correct to just pass the turn there. Then you can use Entomb to eat the Chancellor trigger if he passes, and then you can loot the following turn and hope to hit either a Lotus Petal, a Dark Ritual, a Reanimate. One of those 3. However, no. No, we got Gristlebranded, and like I said, that one wins. Alright, so we're on the play, game 2. We have a Chancellor, we have all the combo pieces, we have discard. The only thing we're missing here is mana, but you keep this hand. If you're missing mana, you keep the hand, I think. And if he reveals a Chancellor trigger, it's fine. We just unmask him because it's not like we have... It doesn't actually slow us down because we're not going to entomb probably until we draw the second Mana Source, or until something else tells us to do it, such as discard or something. Or the information we get from this unmask might make us... Anyway. Yeah, so he's got a Chancellor trigger, so we end up unmasking, but we have to pay. We'll get a red source here, I'm pretty sure. Since we only have 1 land, we don't want to use our land to represent Reverent Silence when we probably are going to need red before we need green. Alright, so his hand is basically... We're going to take the Reanimate because we might need to... If he misses on a black card for 1 turn, then we can entomb in response to unmask the second turn. Okay, so he's playing a Lotus Petal to eat the Chancellor trigger. We know 3 of the 4 cards in his hand. Alright, this one, I have to think about, do I want to play out this Petal? Will it change his unmasked targets? Will it change whether he uses the unmask? But also we just have Entomb in our hand, so we're going to play it out because of access to Coffin Purge in the sideboard, from our sideboard. This is a sideboard game. Okay, so we know 2 of the 4 cards in his hand. Okay, it's kind of like safe to assume he doesn't have a black card, but if it's Entomb, he probably wouldn't unmask us because Entomb equals Coffin Purge, and Coffin Purge is better than unmask. So we're just going to go for it here and hope he didn't draw an Entomb in one of his top 2 cards. And we're going to get Gristlebrand because of the Reverend Silence thing on Animate Dead. Alright, so here we go. And it looks like he drew Entomb, which means we're not going to get Gristlebrand, and we're not going to win. Alright, so he's going to Coffin Purge our thing, and then what? Then he passes the turn, he unmasks us, okay. We have a Chancellor. And we draw Animate Dead. Alright. Tom, we were messaging. Tom said he was getting a little tired at this point and making some mistakes here. This one wasn't even really a mistake. It was just like something weird happened there. It just went straight to the graveyard. It didn't really give him a chance to pay or something. He said he didn't click anything. It was weird. So anyway, then he told me that he drew an Exhume. So I end the game there because he said he would have got Iona or Gristlebrand, but we talked about it, and I told him I don't think you're supposed to Entomb there. If you don't, you're supposed to just wait. In his position, you have Entomb and Chancellor in your hand or whatever. That's your hand, right? And you're facing down Chancellor on my side of the board. So, actually, let me think about this. Now that I see his life total, it might be a little different. All right, so here's the thought. If you wait until you draw the Reanimate spell, it protects your graveyard from me, so I'm not going to reanimate it. So that's the main reason to wait. The main reason to go for it is the Chancellor tax and clock. But you've already got the tax covered when you draw the thing. It takes an extra turn. So like you draw Exhume or Entomb or Animate Dead. You can't do it all in the same turn, but you can end of turn Entomb and then you untap and you get it safely. But I have a 4-power clock in play, so he's going to untap. Alright, so yeah, you wait a turn. You wait one turn. And the reason for that is because once you're down to 10, Reanimate would no longer be... Oh wait, no. You wait multiple turns. You wait until you're going to be below 8 or below 9. Yeah, you just wait. You wait till after I attack twice. So, okay, the reason for that, again, you want Reanimate to be alive, so I attack, you go to 14, I attack, you go to 10, then you make the preemptive play of Entombing. That way, if you draw Reanimate off the top, it's a live draw while you're at 10. But you don't do it before that, because if I discard you, if it's an unmask, then I don't have any hand, right? And so that's when you Entomb in response to my unmask. If it's a Thoughtseize, well, I mean, if it's a Thoughtseize, you also Entomb. You just hope I don't also have a Reanimate spell. So your Entomb's protected from discard, basically. The only way you're punished there is if you draw your Reanimate spell the same turn that I draw my discard spell. But I have fewer discard spells, and that's way less likely to happen than for me to draw a Reanimate spell and just punish you that way. So I think you're supposed to wait until you draw your Reanimate spell, and then you obviously are hoping they don't discard you in that same exact turn, but it's pretty unlikely they do because they're going to cast, or I'm going to cast my discard spell as soon as I draw it. And at that point, you would have, like I said, you would have had to draw your Reanimate spell that exact turn. All right. So anyway, that's the end of that game. And a bunch of stuff for you guys to think about. And that's the end of this video too. So this video, I'm not sure how long it is, but it took quite a bit of time. So I'm going to listen to your guys' feedback on this matchup, in-depth matchup analysis. I'm going to put this one out for free as well. But every other video will be Patreon only. It's only $1, so if you enjoyed the content, sign up for my Patreon. It'll charge you $1 a month, but you'll get all my videos, and you'll get future matchup analysis like this. I might do other decks in the future. But for those of you who are current patrons, thanks again, and please leave feedback on the video and let me know how you feel about this replacing weekly or bi-weekly leagues for a period of time. I'll do leagues, but not on a schedule until I finish this series, which will just be in-depth matchup analysis for different meta decks, current metagame decks for Reanimator. So maybe the next one will be like Delver or Oko Snowco, something like that. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Please leave feedback. Sign up for my Patreon if you enjoyed the content. Leave questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you.